Today, we're going to conclude our two-part mini-series on the elements of balance. Now, last week, we discussed how columns, keeping your shoulders in harmony with your hips, how that matters to your balance, how being rooted and grounded matters to your balance, and how important distinguishing empty and full, substantial and insubstantial, how that all matters in your balance. And today we're going to add, we're not going to forget those three. We're going to add the idea of moving from the Dantian and rotation. And rotation might kind of throw you for a loop of how does rotation really help balance? Well, in our movement, we actually naturally rotate. We're supposed to be rotating in our movement. Some people, if you notice, like go to a mall and notice people that are walking like this. And the reason that they do that is they've lost their natural ability to rotate when they walk. And if you think about what's happening is their body is trying to compensate instead of using the rotation to bring their center of mass over their base of support. They're trying to bring that center of mass over this way. And you can see this is not a balanced position. I've broken my columns and I am very likely to fall if I have to move like this. So rotation is actually very, very important in balance. Let's do the ward off series first. Now that's not, you're not locomoting, you're not moving forward or back, you're not moving side to side, but it does illustrate that whole idea of leading from the Dantian and using your rotation. So if we think about holding the ball to the right and then stepping out, if you lead from the Dantian, that helps you keep your shoulders in harmony with your hips. If you lead with your arms, then you're tempted to break those columns and you're not in a balanced position. Even though you're not moving, even though you have both feet on the ground, you are actually at a risk for falling there. You're not balanced, you're not stable. So now hold that ball again, stepping out, lead with the Dantian, and that helps you stay within your columns. Remember, there's a little bit of weight forward here. Distinguishing substantial and insubstantial, we do bring our weight back as we roll back. And we bring our weight a little bit forward as we rotate and press. And then we bring our weight back in our pushing chi and push forward. Again, if we're thinking about leading from the Dantian throughout that whole movement, it helps keep our posture rooted and grounded. It helps keep it stable. It helps keep us from doing something like this when we're doing our pushing chi. If we're leading from here, that doesn't happen. We keep ourselves in a balanced position. So holding that ball. Now, think about lowering your center of gravity just a little bit. Stepping out, use the Dantian to lead this rotation, grasp the bird's tail. Then rotating back, roll back, rotate and press, leading from the Dantian, pushing chi. Bringing your weight over to the right, bringing it back to the left. Now notice when I come back to the left, remember our weeble wobble person, we don't want to just come back to the left like that. As we finish our pushing chi, we bring our weight over to the right, notice the Dantian, and then we bring our weight to the left. It's this rotation that helps keep you balanced as you come to the right and then as you come to the left. Maintaining your columns, understanding that substantial and insubstantial, letting the Dantian come over the base of support by using your rotation. That keeps you balanced. So let's do the whole ward off sequence again. Holding the ball to the right, stepping out, ward off, grasp the bird's tail, roll back, rotate and press, pushing chi. As we rotate, bringing our weight over to the right, then we rotate, bringing our weight back to the left, and stepping out. Lead with the Dantian through that rotation. Grasp the bird's tail. Roll back, rotate and press, pushing chi. So now we've talked about wave hands like clouds in terms of rotation and bringing that Dantian over the base of support. But that really is key to keeping yourself balanced as you step laterally, right? Again, if we think about our weeble wobble person, if they have to step to the side, they can easily overdo that step. If they're leading from their shoulders, it's just going to make them fall. So understanding how to move from the Dantian as you step. Let's just do the step without our wave hands part. So do wave hands like clouds without doing the wave hands. Step left, and you're going to rotate from here to bring that Dantian over that base of support. That allows this right leg to completely empty into the left. So now it's insubstantial and it can move. Now you need to fill that right leg, bringing your Dantian over that right side. Now you're going to rotate slightly, so now the left can be empty and you can step out. Rotating, bringing that Dantian over your base of support, letting the right leg become empty. Rotating, letting that right leg now become full, so the left is empty. Wave hands like clouds is a great way to practice really focusing on bringing that center of your mass, your Dantian, over your base of support, your substantial leg. And that's critical to keeping your balance. So now let's do our wave hands like clouds with our arms. Weight is on the right, left leg is completely empty. Notice that it starts with that rotation. You rotate to the right, and then as you step left, you're rotating to the left, moving from the Dantian. Then rotating to the right, and you can feel that stable column. Stop right there. You can feel that being rooted and grounded all the way through that column because you have this Dantian over your base of support. And the rotation allowed you to do that. So let's do a few more steps now. Stepping out, bringing the weight over to the left, letting the right leg become empty. Now bring that Dantian over the right so the left can be empty. Stepping. One more step. And the same thing happens when we're doing our part the wild horse's mane or brush knee or Fair Lady works the shuttle. We're actually moving forward in those movements, and we need to be using our rotation to bring our Dantian over our base of support so that we can step forward in a balanced way and not just fall forward. So I'm going to move back this way. I want you to hold that ball to the right, and we're going to do part the wild horse's mane. You're going to step out left, and as you rotate through that motion, as you rotate, notice that dantian comes over the left, because now what needs to happen is that left needs to be completely full in order for you to step with the next part the wild horse's mane. As we rotate and we bring that dantian over that right side, allowing the left to be completely empty so that you can step. And it also allows you to maintain your columns that, like with our pushing chi, right? If we move from the dantian, we're not moving from the shoulders. If we're moving from the dantian in our part the wild horse's mane, we're not moving from our hands. We're not tempted to reach forward like this, which clearly is a bad position for balance. You're not stable. Holding that ball to the right, notice that that left can be completely empty, and you choose to put that foot down into your part the wild horse's mane. This is part of what being stable in your movement means, is you're not falling forward. You're choosing to put that foot down. Now, if you don't and you fall forward, sometimes that happens, but just evaluate. Why was I not stable? Why was I not balanced? Was my dantian not over my base of support? Was I trying to do part the wild horse's mane with just my arms like this? Notice I'm not rotating. I have no way, if I do that, I have to fall forward. I'm going to step this way. This foot has to go down. I don't have a choice. Whereas if I use that rotation and I know my substantial and insubstantial, I have a choice of where that foot goes. I don't have to step forward. Perhaps I step back into white crane spreads its wings, right? That's part of being completely balanced, being completely stable. Well, last week when we talked about our pheasant stands and our kicks, clearly those are one-legged events. We also talked about how walking itself is a one-legged event. We want to be able to be stable on one leg as we move so that we have that choice of where to put the foot. When we did our snake creeps going into pheasant stands, remember we talked about stepping and staying within your columns and not having to go down too low. Now, as you do your snake creeps, what I want you to realize as well is you can still, don't worry about going down low, but think about the rotation that happens right here. You're rotating here and moving that dantian over the base of support so that this back leg can become empty and you can easily come into your pheasant stands. So practicing that snake creeps, as you get better, you get more flexible, keeping your shoulders in harmony with your hips. Notice that I'm moving from the dantian as I rotate into that snake creeps pheasant stance. With kick, smash, and box the ears, there's not as much rotation. There is some, because you have to have that dantian over the base of support in order to be stable kicking. But there's also the idea of that being rooted and grounded of when you do your kick, smash, and box the ears. I'll turn this direction. If you do your kick, smash, and you don't lower your center of gravity by lowering from here, you actually have to fall forward. That again is not a balanced position. When you do your kick, smash, and box the ears, you need to lower that center of gravity so that your heel can land, and then you move forward from the dantian, keeping your columns intact, to box the ears. That's all very important in your movement, in that you're not simply allowing gravity to make you fall forward. Gravity is a good thing, but we want to make sure that we're in control of our movement and not just abdicating and letting gravity take over. That's not what we want. We want to be in control of our movement. I want to circle back to our part the wild horse's mane for just a second. And with the idea of being rooted and grounded, we want to make sure that our stance is wide enough and low enough that we are rooted and grounded and stable as we step forward with that part the wild horse's mane. It's very unstable if we're like a narrow stance. It's very unstable in our kick, smash, and box the ears if we just lock that knee. Being rooted and grounded is part of understanding that stability and letting the ground talk to us through our feet. So elements of balance they roll together. They're not separate things. We have to talk about them in separate ways, but really all of these things roll together, because moving from the dantian, using your rotation to move from the dantian, allows you to keep those columns intact and allows you to create a good rooted and grounded position, understanding the substantial side and the insubstantial side. All of this comes together as we move and as we have one-legged events. Life can throw us some curves, and if we understand these elements of balance as we're moving, if something disturbs our balance, maybe somebody hits us, maybe we have to move quickly, if we've practiced our elements of balance, we're actually more stable, because then we can return to our equilibrium, return to our balance. If you're not thinking about these elements, if you're moving unconsciously and just kind of plodding through, something disturbs your balance, disturbs your equilibrium, you are going to fall. And we want to avoid that as much as possible. So I understand there's some questions. What question is there?
So Susan wants to know, is it better if I learn both the hand movements and the foot movements separately, since I seem to lack coordination to do them together?
So Susan asked about learning hand movements and foot movements, whether to learn them together or learn them separately. And Susan, it's a great question. There are times where it is important, where it might be better to separate lower and upper and kind of learn one before you learn the other, such as wave hands like clouds. But you absolutely need to understand that upper and lower follow one another. That's one of the essentials, that We need to coordinate that movement. As you get better with it, then it becomes easier to do those movements. Hands and feet, there's a lot going on in Tai Chi. There's not only, where do my hands go, where do my feet go, but now you have to think about those underlying principles as well. If you want to think about wave hands like clouds, like we did in stepping, that's actually very good to do. But then think about how that hand movement actually helps you do that rotation as well, and really helps you focus on letting the Dantian come over that base of support by using your rotation. Kick, smash, and box the ears. You can certainly work on kicks, work on lowering that center of gravity, and then eventually learn to box the ears. That's fine as well. We want to think about how Tai Chi can help us be better. And if separating out upper and lower helps you learn to do the movements in a better way, meaning you're understanding those underlying principles, that's a great way to practice. Any other questions? Okay. So let's do the form now and think about, if you can, all 5 of these elements, thinking about keeping your columns intact, thinking about being rooted and grounded, understanding and really distinguishing between substantial and insubstantial, knowing that the Dantian is the leader of the movement, and it really is the leader in our balance, our elements of balance. And our rotation helps us allow that Dantian to move over our base of support.